Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala amma ba'd. Alright, so we're talking about time targets. This activity that we're about to do, inshallah ta'ala, is, in my experience, one of the most effective ways of finding out what you're dealing with right now. If you start to follow, if you're doing financial mastery, one of the first things that you would need to do is write down your spending habits for like 7 days. Because you don't actually know where the money is being lost until you actually go back and see where is it. And you might find in some of the most trivial things, a person might be buying water bottles instead of buying like cases of water bottles. And they'll say over a month they spend, for example, $200 extra. I think a lot of you won't know, I'm talking finances, how much you actually spend on eating out, right? $8 here, $11 there, $30 here, and so on. And then when you come to the end of the month, you're like, you spend, for example, $400, $500 on eating out. And a person is saying like, wow, I didn't know how much money goes to eating out. You don't count the chocolate bars at the convenience store that you purchase. And they put it there for a reason because they know just on impulse, you just, and add this and add that, right? This activity is profound like that when you actually, we'll try to do it, based on what you think, how you spend your day. And that's, for the activity. But I would actually encourage you after this to go home and for 7 days start writing down where you spent your time so that you can actually see where it is being spent. So for the employee that's sitting on the computer with the internet, if they calculated how they spent their time, probably at the end of the week they would be shocked to see that, for example, that only 10 minutes of the day was used actually doing something productive, or maybe even less than that. Okay, when I did this activity that I'm about to share with you, inshallah ta'ala, one of the shocking things for me was, okay, if you're not feeling energetic and you're feeling, for example, like, a little tired and so on, one of the things you'll find here is that as you list everything, exercise isn't even in there. If you look at the lifestyle, especially in a wintry cold place, basically like there's no purpose to your body. It's just you and the computer. What does your body do? Your body takes you from the computer to the refrigerator to get a drink. That's it. And from your room outside to get on a bus. And you arrive at probably the most exercise you get is at the mall. Walking from ice cream shop to, this place. And that's like, oh, I'm so tired, right? The body doesn't do anything, and you'll see this in the time targets, in this activity, that exercise is nowhere there. If a person, for example, is married, and as you go through the whole list, this is another shocker people might find is, there's no quality time with the husband or with the wife. It's not there. And someone will write it down how they spent their time, and I'm like, you have marital problems, don't you? And they're like, no, things are fine. It's not that bad. Right? I'm like, because your husband's not even anywhere on the list. Meaning that you pay no attention whatsoever to him, and the husband is all about he needs to be appreciated and all of that stuff. And the wife is doing none of that, and the husband the same way. All right. Let's go through it. The first thing is things that are not urgent and not important. Actually, you know what? Before I explain this, why don't you write down what you do in a typical day? Go ahead and write that down now. What you do in a typical day. So you do maybe start a new page if you have, that space. And just write down, 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Who's had a brilliant idea before? When did it happen? Where were you when it happened? Yes? At the shower. Yes? Hazem? Where were you when it happened? Okay. And the sisters? You had a brilliant idea? Yes? On the bus? Okay. There's something very interesting about brilliant ideas. They happen when you're relaxed, not when you're stressed. Okay? That's why nobody says, oh, I was at work and I was checking my emails and then I had a brilliant idea. Right? It'll typically happen in a bathroom, in a in a shower, or as the sister said, where a place where you just relax. You're just going for a ride and then you get like a brilliant idea. And so that's actually a critical point that I'm going to explain here, and that is we need times to recharge. In fact, some of your most brilliant ideas will come in a state of deep relaxation. So I'm not saying that, your life should just be busy, busy, busy all the time. In fact, the concept is this, that you want to be effective, working really hard, and then you want to have times where you're just totally disengaged. Totally disengaged. So for example, if I'm if I'm driving on the highway and it's a long trip to Toronto, you know what I do? There's a rest stop on the way that has video games. So I'll take a break and then I'll pop in the quarter, or I think it's $1 now, what the prices are, and just play the video game. Just act like a kid. It's like one of those hunting games. The deer come running by, and you're like, and then the birds come and the dog's like, you got it, right? And if for those 5 minutes or whatever, you're totally forgetting about anything around you. Completely. This can happen, for example, when you're playing sports. It can happen sometimes if you're painting, depending on what you're doing. But you're totally disengaged. You're totally disengaged, and then that gives you this refreshing time. It's not too long, but a refreshing time so that you can come back. When I was in Medina University and studying for exams and it was really difficult, when I would advise students who are coming to study, I would tell them, bring some copies of the Reader's Digest with you, or bring novels. So in the midst of studying, so I would study, for example, half an hour, and then, alarm goes off, and it's break time. What would I do? I'd pull out the Reader's Digest and start, just kick back and just read something, because if I didn't read something, then my mind would start processing what I just, studied. So it hasn't really broken state, right? So what I would do is I'd open up a Reader's Digest or a novel, or listen to some tape that's really engaging, so that you're completely disengaged. 10 minutes, alarm goes back off, and then now you're back into the work. It's called interval training. It's the best type of training, where you're completely engaged, break, completely engaged, break, completely engaged, break, and like that you start going, and then you get stronger and stronger like that. Okay, I need some examples. Who would like to share with me their daily habits, or how they spend their time, and I will give you feedback. Like I said, we will share and you'll benefit a lot. Who would like to go through it? You want to go for it? All right. So start it off. Yep.
Start at 6:30 in the morning when I wake up with Fajr.
Okay. So Fajr. Okay. Okay, no problem. Yes, thank you for being honest. We need honesty. I know if you're lying, by the way. So 6:30 to what time do you wake up? Or sorry,
That is 7 to 7:30.
You only sleep half an hour after that?
Yeah, I have to do that.
Okay. All right.
So
Then?
I then wake up and get ready basically for the day. Prepare my son's stuff for the.
Give me some times, so time to time this, time to time that.
At 9 o'clock.
Okay, 7:30 till 9. You're unaccounted for at 7:30 to 9. Yes. So 7:30 to 9, you're doing what?
Breakfast, preparing daycare stuff for baby, and basically preparing for the day.
Day prep. Okay. Sure. Then 9.
Then from 9 to 5:30 is work. We live close to the daycare.
Okay. So where do you work?
REM, Research in Motion.
Okay. It's IT work?
It's a hardware design.
Okay, so engineering?
Yes.
Engineer. I like how you chunked this into, this is about how many hours? 8.5 hours. Okay, so now I know how people do that. They're like, how can I get anything done when I have to work 9 to 5:30? And I would say that inside of this, your whole life is passing by in this chunk right here. So number one is critical. The feedback for this is for everybody else is the majority of your life will be spent at your work. So you want to make your work your life mission. So if a person loves engineering and loves to, for example, build buildings so that are greener and better for the earth. Someone else, for example, is in software and they're making new software for the healthcare industry so people can have safer care. You want to be engaged in whatever you're doing because it's going to be your life mission. If it's not, a lot of people don't think about this when they study what they're studying. Their question that they ask themselves is, um, what will make the most money that I'm kind of interested in. And that's a problem because something that will make you money, once you start getting money, you don't care about it anymore. You actually begin to resent it. It's standing between you and what you really want to do. And that's why all the talk of financial freedom. Because by the time the person makes the money, now they want to escape that which gave them the money. Right? Okay. So let's break this down. 9 to 5:30. How long do you spend on emails? You arrive there? Do you start with emails?
We start with email.
Okay.
Because it's corporate and it's always on BlackBerry. We work with BlackBerry.
Okay. You're the ones who do this to us, right? Okay.
So probably to say 30% of that time is just replying on emails and checking emails.
Okay. Give me some hours.
Some hours, 8 hours, we'll say 3 hours.
Okay. So 3 hours. 3 hours replying emails. Are they all like important emails?
Yeah, and we do work emails.
Okay. All important. Okay.
1
And
hour lunch.
1 hour lunch. Do you go out during? What do you do at lunch?
Well, we have a cafeteria or we go out, but we stick it with the 1 hour.
What I'm saying is that in that 1 hour lunch, do you stay at the desk?
No, we go to the cafeteria.
Who's
with
we?
Others, me, like everybody in the family.
So you have like, yeah. So you and your husband go to the cafeteria. Okay. Okay. How far is the cafeteria?
The first floor, and we go to the fifth floor. This is the same building.
Okay, same building. All right. And then 5:30. Do you normally go home at 5:30 or is it delayed?
No, 5:30.
How and you live near the work?
We live near work.
Okay.
And the daycare is near work. So from
Yeah.
5:30 to 6, that's picking up my son and going home. So there's half an hour.
Yeah, that's what I was asking because a lot of people spend time in commutes. So, and they might not understand how much time they're actually wasting. Sometimes when people do commutes, they could be spending up to 2 hours, 3 hours a day in commute, if not more. If they stop for anything, that'll add like another half an hour. For example, if you stop at a donut shop, right, that will add like a half hour to your commute, right? So, and then when people are also in their cars, what are they listening to? They usually, inshallah, they're not listening to something haram, but they're basically, most people listen to junk, right? Meaning that like junk food that doesn't benefit a person, people are listening to radio or listening to stuff that is basically worthless. So their days go by and all these hours are just being like, exhausted. All right, so 5:30 to 6 is like commute home. Like I said, like this is very what I would say neat, right? It just looks like everything's like your whole life is half an hour chunks, which isn't the case. In real life, you'll see that some of this stuff, for example, preparation, I would challenge if it actually takes an hour and a half, right? Because you might be able to cut down on things like that. Maybe get foods prepared like the night before. Things can be maybe once a week you start putting things into packages and so on, so that this hour and a half could be half an hour reading Quran and start developing your Quran strategies and building up your memorization. Or you might actually get some more sleep and like we said, deep recharge. You don't have to like be rushed like that. Just giving you some examples anyhow. So it's 6 o'clock, then what do you do?
From 6 to 10:30, we either do grocery and buy urgent things.
How often do you do groceries?
Um, every couple of days.
Every what?
Every 2 days.
Every 2 days.
We don't buy chunks. So either grocery or urgent stuff that we need to buy for baby, because like diapers and things like that, and clean house. That would be all in 6 to 10:30.
Okay.
And if everything is done,
Yeah.
we use that time to visit friends and family.
Okay, so it's 10:30. Then what do you do?
From 10:30 to 12:30, it's replying unimportant emails
Do you put your child to sleep
at 10:30.
at 10:30? It takes 10 seconds to put it there. Okay, 10:30. 10:30 to 12:30. You said.
So 10:30 to 12:30 is replying other emails, not work emails.
Okay, so personal emails.
Personal emails.
Both you and your husband doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or internet and reading Quran, all of that.
Internet reading Quran. You seriously read Quran late at night?
We have to read before bed.
Okay.
Just
How much do you
relax.
read before you go bed? Okay. Good for you. That's like Juz Amma? The surahs, yeah. It's an Egyptian tradition. When I was younger, always before we went to bed, my mom would make us go through all the surahs that we'd memorize and stuff like that. Yeah. So, okay. So now let me explain these different targets, and then we'll go back to this and we'll see how we can start implementing it and looking at it, and you can also look at what you wrote and start bunching them together. So the first one is things that are not urgent and not important. Okay? When we're talking about urgency, like something is urgent, I'll give you an example of something that's urgent. If, like right in the middle of this lecture, a sister passed out, is that urgent that we care for her? Or do we tell her, just leave her at break time, we'll deal with it. Something urgent took place, okay? So, someone got a call, somebody collapsed at home, they've been taken to the hospital, I have to leave and I have to go there, okay? So that's something that's urgent. Something that's important would be like, it would be important for you to arrive at work at 9 a.m. in the morning. It's important because you're being paid for this and so on. So it's not necessarily urgent. If you came, and that's why people come late, because they don't really need to be there at 9 a.m. They can be there at 9:15, but the boss is just trying to make sure everybody comes on time. So it's important that you follow protocol and stuff like that, but it's not necessarily urgent. Okay, so that's just giving you a glimpse of what I'm talking about with urgency and important. A lot of people focus in this first category of things that are not urgent. There's no urgency. You don't have to do it right now. And it's not even important. Okay? So examples of that would be, for example, someone chatting online. Is it urgent? Someone, you see, oh, my friend's online. Abdullah's online. Abdullah has signed in. You click on him. Hey, what's up? Is that urgent that you asked him that question? No. Is it even important? You're not even asking anything of importance, right? So it's not urgent and it's not important, right? But yet we spend time doing those things. Checking email, talking about the weather. If you've ever, for example, sat and discussed things with people and, you're like, so how's the weather? You're like, is there any urgency to, discuss this? No. Is there any importance to it? Not even necessarily is there any. Overeating. For example, it's like lunchtime and a person says, let's go to restaurant so-and-so. It's very far away. It takes 1 hour to get there, 1 hour to be seated, 1 hour to be served, and 1 hour to come back. It'll be like a whole evening. If you ever people say, let's go out for dinner, and then afterwards we'll do something. No, dinner is the evening event, right? So is it urgent that you eat at that restaurant? No. Is it important? No. It's just a distraction, right? You can do it. I'm not saying don't do it. But just so you understand, it's not urgent, not important. In fact, while everybody's deciding which restaurant to eat at, you pull out sandwiches. And everybody eats it, and now they're not hungry anymore. In the process of even figuring out what restaurant they can get it done. But here's the problem. If everybody was full, then what would we do? We'll actually have to sit around and talk or play sports, or it's like subhanAllah. I don't remember where I was saying this. Yeah, I remember where I said it. I was saying that in the UK, when people kind of like skip classes, right? If there's Islamic lectures going on and the little kids are playing outside, and I was once at a conference. It was my first conference in the UK a long time ago, and these kids didn't know that I was one of the speakers, and they were skipping the lectures. So one of them was talking to the other. He's like, "Let's go play football." And the other kid's like, no, my dad said we have to attend the lecture. He's like, come on, let's play football. So what they're going to do is like get it like a soccer ball and go play on the corner, put up some posts. And I thought to myself, if these kids were in North America, right, USA specifically, they would never say that. Never. One kid telling the other kid, let's go play some soccer. Let's go play some football. Instead of attending the lecture. Right? In Canada, they might say, let's go play some hockey. And the British people would be like, are you talking about field hockey? No, we're talking about ice hockey. Right? Basically, the point I was making there was we are, just products of our environment. We like these things because everybody just talks about it, so we just pretend like we like it. And we're like, no, I really do like it. It's because you live here, that's why you like it. And if you live somewhere else, you would like something different. Guaranteed, you went anywhere else in the world, you would start to like soccer, right? But here's another point, and I said to the brothers and sisters there I was talking to. This is just like last week. I said, now in America, what would the same person say? These two kids, what would they say? And someone said something interesting. They said, "Let's go out to eat." And I said, "Wow, that's so amazing because we don't play any sports." We never go out and go play field hockey or ice hockey, anything. We don't play sports. Basically, whenever someone, even kids, if you had kids that were supposed to be attending this, their parents forced them, and now they were trying to skip, they would skip to go eat. Correct? They would go down to the local, donut shop, and they would sit there and buy like a latte. And they're like, yeah, we're cool because we eat food. Okay. So overeating is also, it's not urgent, not important. The person's not even hungry. It's not important that they eat it, but yet they overeat. Oversleeping, sometimes, you know what? A person's like, they're not even tired, but it's not time to wake up yet. So they're just oversleeping. And walking around the mall. Okay. So let's look. Your name is sister? Heba? In this, do you see any distractions? Where would the distractions be? And some of these big blocks, we haven't really gone into the details, and some of them will be inside of those. So go ahead. Something that's not important and not urgent. Okay. Okay, so you didn't mention that before, but so 2 hours TV. Okay. And so 2 hours TV, is it important that you watch that? No. So some people try to, they say, oh, I'm watching Al Jazeera, I'm looking at the current state of the Muslims. It's important that I know this. I'm saying you can know that information. There's ways to get it much more quickly than sitting down every day and following the news for hours and hours. Okay. In and out. Okay. So 2 hours TV, okay. What else? Not important, not urgent. What else? How long do you spend with that? Okay. What else? Is this a distraction here? Replying emails personal? Is it important that you reply those emails every single day for 2 hours? Every single day you reply for 2 hours? And if you don't, they're going to what? Okay. And here's the thing. A lot of people like to take their stuff and say that it's important. Otherwise, who says my life isn't important? Right? It hurts. I'm telling you, you can have non-important. Like I said, if I'm traveling on the highway, I'll go play a game at an arcade, and I do that on purpose, right? But I'm saying like do it like with intelligence. That this is my downtime. This is the day that I use. Don't bother me. I'm not working, and so on and so forth. Right? So is it important? Is it urgent? Okay. So how about 7 pages a day of reading Quran? Is that important?
To me it is.
Is it urgent?
To me it is. Because I read what, like, I have to read Surah Al-Waqa every night. I feel if I don't read that, I can't function next day.
Okay, no problem. I do think it's important too. I'd agree with you. But we have to get clear about what is. It's not urgent. You can delay this, right? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm going to explain what these different targets and where you want to focus on. Okay, so we got some ideas. Things that are not urgent, maybe like we said, not urgent, not important.
During work time, there's probably like 1 hour a day of chatting with colleagues about non-work related stuff.
Okay, so 1 hour. Okay, cool. So now you got a glimpse. You want to look at what you wrote and try to pull out 2 or 3 distractions. Things that are not important and not urgent. Okay, so waiting for something. How much, it's not important, not urgent. We're just waiting for something. Class starts at 1 o'clock and we arrive at, we arrived early. We're at like 12:20. What do? You just stand outside the door. And what do you do during that time? Nothing, right? You just stand there and just twiddle your thumbs. And so the time is it just goes not important, not urgent. Waiting for classes, waiting for buses, waiting is like a big thing. Just waiting for, even as the sister is saying here, if you're going, probably husband is waiting for her or she's waiting for the husband. Right? He's like, oh, he's got to do something. She has to stand around with a bag and she's waiting for him, and it's usually the opposite. All right. Not important, not urgent. The next section is things that are urgent but not important. It's urgent that I do this. I underlined this point here when the sister said urgent baby stuff. So urgent baby stuff would be like what? Okay. Okay, so example like the sister said that it might be, for example, hygiene, Pampers. Is it possible that that it not be left to the last minute? So instead of buying 1 box of diapers, for example, you buy 5 boxes and stack them. Correct? You go to Costco. So now you've just deleted this section. Maybe milk is a little bit different, but even milk, for example, in the olden days, you'd have the milkman who delivers the milk to the house, right? Or if you're getting like really technical and stuff like that, you can get powdered milk that doesn't go bad. You have like a big stack of it, like stashed up. You just mix it and whatnot. And I'm just giving you examples of how things like that don't have to be urgent. Or you get like a different type of milk that lasts longer. So the person doesn't have to, I would say like, the groceries every 2 days. What would that be? Is that important?
Well, yeah, food that we have to cook for the next coming 2 days, because we used to buy in bulk, but because it's only me and my husband who eat basically lunch at that, make lunch at that time, we end up throwing a lot of food, so that's why we have to buy it.
Like fresh foods and stuff like that. All right. Okay, so I'll just leave that for now. It might be like important, but it's not necessarily urgent that it's every 2 days. Okay, so this is the area, as it says, of delusion. Delusion comes up where a person, they think that things are like urgent. I need to do this. It's urgent. I got this and that. But in reality, there's no urgency. Someone will call you like late at night, let's do this, let's do that. There's no urgency. It was just a delusion that's happening. And if the person just steps back, easily these things can be resolved with just a little planning. The person just has to it's kind of like the problem is that the person's trying to act like they have things to do, right? I'm urgent. If you've ever seen people that have like what's that thing? The Bluetooth headset that's always on their head, right? You know what I'm talking about? The guys walking around. There's always a Bluetooth on their head because urgent calls are coming at any time, right? This person, every time I see someone doing that, I feel, not everybody's again, I feel like this person is just a delusion. Their life is a delusion. They're just pretending like they need to have this Bluetooth on at all because, calls are coming in. Just in case someone doesn't know where a restaurant is, they'll be able to tell them. Just in case, the friend wants to chat at any time, they've got it already on. Okay? So it's an area of delusion. Yes?
I was going to ask this question during honor is not important, but when you talked about playing video games for a couple of minutes,
Mhm.
changing state, is it important to schedule those into your daily activity in between tasks? Because sometimes I schedule it, but I'm not in need of that break yet. But other times, so what would be a good way? How would you classify that? And when
Okay, so the question the brother is asking is about if a person has downtime, and I said like it's good to have like downtime, that interval training where a person goes up and down. Should that be scheduled in? And I would say yes, it should be scheduled in, because sometimes what happens is that you will just keep going like on afterburners. So if you've ever sat in front of a computer and you said I'm going to give myself a break every like 45 minutes, chances are after 45 minutes your alarm thing goes off and you don't want to break. So you keep going and you run yourself to the ground like that. By the end of the day, you're saying, I wish I had taken those breaks. Right? So, for example, in the Al-Maghrib classes, Al-Maghrib Institute, we do breaks every 50 minutes. A lot of times, a break will come after 50 minutes and people are like, we don't need a break. Okay, no problem, go take a break. And then they come back, and then they're like, well, we don't need a break. The reason you don't need breaks and you're so refreshed is because you're getting breaks. And now you're on like on a rhythm. You're always on a high, and you can go for longer periods of time. Versus the warrior that wants to do everything, like no breaks, no breaks, no breaks. Their brain shuts off. You'll find that if you're not taking a break like those every 45 minutes, whatever it is, you're easily distracted. Like you start losing brain power, you start dehydrating. Someone says, hey, check out this video, and you sit and you watch that, and then you start going on tangents like that. But I find that when you have like these, I've only got 45 minutes, and then, for example, I have to leave, you'll see that you get much more work done, as opposed to the mentality of, I have forever to do this. So the breaks, so the question is, during the break, should you check your email as a distraction? And so I'll give you this. So let's suppose as a break, you might want to put some physical movement into it. So as a break, you might want to step away from your desk because you're already at your desk and your computer's already there, and chances are you're already wasting time checking email. So break time isn't checking email. You're already doing that as your work. So as a break time, for example, let's suppose 45-minute clicks in, there's a water cooler somewhere, walk out to the water cooler. Or even like here's a really cool one is like use a bathroom break by drinking like lots of water. Drink a liter of water in that 45 minutes, right? And then use going to the bathroom as your break. So just bathroom is like the only place when you're just by yourself. What's that? Or reading something. Basically, the goal is to be fully disengaged from your work completely. Like your mind is, it can't focus on the work. It's focused on something totally different. Yeah. Well, we'll see, inshallah ta'ala. All right, the next area is urgent and important. It's urgent and it's important. And this is demand. There's a demand. So, for example, would you like to give us some examples? Urgent and important. Yes, it is urgent. Oh, I'll give you an example. So you said something. For example, your baby and the milk. Right? So getting milk for your baby is urgent and it's important. So you need it, and the baby really does need the milk. Okay? Yeah. Prayers, a good example, is prayer urgent? I would say no, it's not urgent, because Allah gave us like 2 hours, 3 hours to pray like each prayer. It becomes urgent when you waited to the last 5 minutes. That's an excellent example. That's why it's called demand. If you wait to the last minute, and that's the point I'm trying to make, is that if you only organize your time better, it doesn't have to be urgent. Like you can pray with relaxation. Go 15 minutes early for the masjid, pray 2 rak'ahs, listen to the adhan, read some Quran, pray your sunnah prayers, pray the salah. Come out. It's not urgent, but it's something that's important, which is the demand. Okay, something else? Urgent and important? again, I would say things that you're preparing for your child as well. It's urgent and important. You have to prepare them, and you have to go to work. So there's urgency involved and importance. The 3 hours of replying to emails, is that urgent? Do you feel stressed out by answering these emails? Like you got a lot of emails? Okay. Okay, so a lot of emails are coming on. You got to respond to people and whatnot. So it's urgent and it's important. This is your job. You have to answer it. So again, that's what we're talking about, demand. There's a demand here. So there's a demand, a stressful demand happening here. Stressful demand in the morning hours. You have stressful demand, I would say, urgent and important. Maybe like some groceries. I don't know if you're like stressed out by that with the baby. Okay. Somebody else? If you look in your paper, maybe pull out some things that were the urgent, not important. Pull out some points that were urgent and important. The one about urgent, not important, a lot of people won't include things in that area because they're like, no, it's important to me. I'm talking about in the bigger schemes of things. Is important. But driving to work, is that urgent? I would say that it's urgent and it's not important. The reason is that it's not important for you to drive to work. It's important to get to work, right? But nobody said you have to be the driver. So you could get a driver, like a limousine, for example, and you sit in the back and you read your books and you're doing your stuff. Correct? And that's even how the bus system and the trail, that's how they market it. They say, leave the driving to us. Right? Isn't that how they market it? So they're telling people that it's not important for you to do the driving. You have more important things. You take care of your thing, we take care of it. So it's not important for you to drive, but obviously it is urgent that you get to work, right? Which is like the demand. So you're in a delusion. I have to drive, but it's not necessarily important for you to drive. It's like a delusional type of thing. That's why I said the delusion area is hard for people to pull out. Usually when it comes to jobs, people are always saying, get this in by this, get this in by that. If you're a little late, probably, no big deal. It's like just the demand of the jobs. So this delusion of, let's pretend like we're all doing urgent stuff. But it's not necessarily like, if people just rearrange things, they could work much more effectively and make more profit, but it's just a delusion of just keeping busy, right? Urgent and important. Okay, the last one is, it's not urgent, yet it's important. Not urgent, and yet it's important. So we gave this example, it came up earlier, which was the 7 pages of Quran. Is that urgent? The answer is no, it's not, because it's not fard. It's not compulsory, obligatory for a person to read these 7 pages. It's not urgent. If a person delayed it, there's no sin involved in delaying it, but it's important to her, and it's something important to do to cultivate your connection, your spirituality. If you have a dream that you want to do, like for example, someone wants to open up an orphanage in the city. Is that urgent? No, it's not urgent. That's why people don't do things like that. There's no demand. There's no, so basically, because they spend so much time in distraction, in delusion, in demand, they never really fulfill their dreams. Because they're just engrossed in the other areas. And that's why the fulfillment is in the middle. That's the target, is you want to spend more time doing important things that are not urgent. But where are you going to get the urgency from? I'm thinking of a diet. If a person goes on a diet, what area would that be in? Is their diet urgent? No. See, if it was urgent, they probably were diagnosed with cancer or something like that. They've got 6 months to live, or that's what the doctor said. And now it's urgent that they lose weight right now. Okay, that's when it becomes. But normally it's not urgent. It's like something that people would like. Is it important? It's important, but it's not urgent. So if a person took care of their health, they would be fulfilled. That's the way it works. If they waited till they got a disease and a sickness and stuff like that, and it became urgent, then and it's important, then it would be what category? It'd be there would be a demand upon them. So basically, they'd have to leave work and spend more time at the gym or something like that. There's this demand happening. Things like I give examples of important things, but they're not urgent. Attending personal development seminars, for example, is it urgent that you attend this one? No, it's not urgent. And in fact, you might have encouraged someone to attend, and then they said, "Oh, when's the next one coming?" Right? Did anybody hear that? You heard it. When's the next one coming? And their life, that's the epitome of their life. Whoever said that. It's a habit that they just always delay. They don't live in fulfillment. They always focus on what's my demand right now, and then they go and distract themselves. All right. What have you learned from this? Someone like write something down and saw something intense. Let's go through. Okay, so now you want to calculate your times. How much time does the sister spend sleeping? If you went to sleep at 12:30 to 6:30, you sleep for 5 hours and a half, 6 hours. So that's pretty good. 6.5 hours sleeping. Okay. How does she spend her time? Getting prepared for things. Getting prepared. How much time getting prepared? So she mentioned this area, probably let's say about, this is 4.5 hours, right? But she said visit friends and family and stuff like that, and there's 2 hours TV. So let's say about 3 hours of that is getting prepared for things, meaning like going grocery shopping and child, right? Getting prepared. Preparing. Did we say, let's say just in general 3 hours here, and this is 1.5 hours, so 4.5 hours preparing, right? Then you have work. Sitting at a desk is how many hours of the day? Sitting stagnant. All these hours are stagnant, right? Even the lunch is stagnant, and here you're stagnant, and that you're the stagnant too. And probably here, probably the only movement you get is at the grocery store. Right? Okay? And if you visit friends and family, you're stagnant and they're making food for you too and stuff like that, right? So how much movement do you get in a day? In a day, you probably get half an hour of movement. And it's not even, it's movement, but it's not actually like intentional movement. Like it's not like you're on treadmill, you're actually pumping up your heartbeat. It actually probably doesn't even count as exercise.
You can say around an hour. For,
Just to make it sound nice.
And making food for the next day and preparing in the morning.
Okay, but things like that. I mean, they're like typical movement stuff. Like okay, it's good, but it's not like like intense. Remember I said like people when they get on a treadmill and they'll go for 1 hour, but they're moving at a turtle's pace. It's like it's not really they're exercising. They're just like really going for the long haul. Exercise is, you crank it up and you work for 20 minutes. You feel you're breathing hard. You have some discomfort in that exercise. So let's be optimistic and say 1 hour movement. Okay. How much time do you spend developing your career? Learning new things about your career?
Work related or dream related?
Like dream related.
Right now, probably like an hour, 2 hours a day.
Okay, you keep bringing out hours from the day. We only got 24 hours.
I will take from either the lunch.
I'm talking about like you're sitting down with Engineer Weekly and you're like looking up the latest technologies. On weekends, you sit with Engineer Weekly?
Not engineer. No. I sit with myself trying to
visualize
what I want to do.
But you're not necessarily actually practicing learning new things. Okay, so 0 even. So career development would be like 0 hours. 0 hours. See, this is where you start learning. I want you to look at, everybody look at their own, right? Sisters, Jazakallah Khairan, allowed us to glimpse into it, but look at your own stuff. For your finances. Okay, inshallah ta'ala, you got like a good job, engineering job and stuff like that. And you got 2 people working. I'm going to venture kind of a guess that you're not really investing your extra money. Okay, because sometimes when a person's like somewhere we're in the middle, there will be like 1 hour I spend with the stock market, or someone saying, I read, money news and find out where the markets are going, or I try investing. So finances, time spent on developing like finances is also zero. Zero finances. You said, let's how much time do you spend with your child? How old is your child?
He's a year and a half.
Year and a half, and he's talking. He's talking. How much time do you spend with your child?
Basically, it's after we pick him from daycare until he sleeps. This is where we engage.
This 6 to 10:30. Okay, but you're doing groceries during that time, or you're buying stuff, or you're visiting family and friends, or you're cleaning the house. You didn't mention that I sit down and read a book with my child.
Not during weekdays, no.
Okay, so so on a weekend, how much time would you spend with the child?
The whole day except 4 hours.
Okay, so just like weekdays, time developing child, would you say it's zero? To actually sit down and say it's class time? Okay. Does that does that come up? Do you notice that and you're like, oh, that's one of my goals. I want to spend more time. Do you say that to yourself? Okay. Okay, zero child. All right. How about your husband? Like quality time, you and your husband. I mean, you said husband and I have lunch together. That's awesome, by the way. And yeah, this is very good.
Whatever we do after work, we do it together. Like, it's not like I'm a housewife and after work I do house stuff. No, we do everything together.
Mhm.
So from 6 to 12:30, whatever I do, he does it with.
So when you're replying emails, you're fully engaged with them too? How does that work?
We have our computer actually on the screen, on the plasma TV, so we both sit together and do it together.
I'm trying to figure out how you would be paying attention to him and yet checking your email at the same time. So like if you see a YouTube video, you'll bump him and say, hey, check this out? Okay. So let's say you're walking around in the grocery shop. I'm saying it's pretty good. Like I give examples, some other people, they might not even mention any time with their husband. And that's typical. In fact, when you said, that you spent lunch with your husband, I was like, that's awesome. Because rarely do people do things like that. Okay, so let's suppose about like 4 hours with husband. Here's something interesting for you. Do you get quality time away from your husband? Okay, so remember I said about the interval training? You'll be with someone so long that you just get sick of them. And then you're like, please, don't you have somewhere to go? Can you check your email by yourself instead of us sharing this plasma TV together? I'm busy. Because that'll come up too, where a person wants to, totally disengage, so they can, replenish. And usually, for example, a person will be like, I'm going into the bathroom and having, right? So they close the door, lock it, and spend as much time as they can because they need that time to just get their brain together, right? And not always have someone always beside them there.
If the schedule is like that, if my whole weekdays is basically work, grocery, and cleaning, I don't get the time during weekdays to spend much time with my child and husband. So that doesn't leave me, give me time for myself. So whatever time I'm having during weekends or 2 hours a day, I want to do anything with them.
You do or you don't want to do anything? Okay.
How would I get time for myself then? Even if I want to go to visit friends or have lunch with friends, that's probably once every 3-4 months. I don't.
What about this friends and family thing? So that's what you're talking about here? Oh. So it's not family, you meant husband. I thought you had other family members. And you said you don't visit friends during that time?
No, we visit family and friends together. We're all.
Oh, but you have family here?
Yeah, I have my mom here.
Okay. All right. So alhamdulillah, when we came here this morning, everybody was kind of like, life is great. What are you talking about? Time management and stuff like that. Now, alhamdulillah, the sister has offered us guaranteed and she, usually the person who volunteers, usually has like a perfect life that they're willing to share. Everybody else is screwed up. That's why they're not sharing anything. Alright? They're so screwed up. They're like, I can't share that. It'll go on the recorder and everybody will know my life is screwed up. And so when we first wrote this down, it seemed like this is, oh, it's nice, a nice job, lunch with the husband, everything's great. And now we see how screwed up this sister is. Right? Meaning that there's some deep things. I know that one, the 0 hours with the child, that, for me that would kill me. Right? And that's why I felt it. Right? In fact, even in my lifestyle, I might like on the weekends go places and it kills me to just be away just for the weekend. Right? And I'm not even the mother. Right? The mother even more wants to spend time with the child. And then all of these things, so you can see like preparation, no movement, your energy will start to pull down. You'll start to get, more lethargic at work, more like, just going through the motions. I'm just kind of like giving you the way. You're only getting 6 hours and a half hours of sleep, and my guess is you're not eating that. Normally people don't eat that well. Alhamdulillah, you're eating, but if you're eating at the cafeteria every day and so on, usually it's not like the best meal. Sometimes you get a salad, sometimes you don't. With 6 hours of sleep, you're basically running yourself to the ground like that. 4.5 hours of preparation, that seems like a lot of time, and so my guess is it's confused preparation. If you're going to prepare, you can prepare very quickly if you're on target, but if you're just spending time like that, it's just like confused. Your career isn't developing, so maybe when things happen at your company and they're looking to lay people off, they might lay off the people that aren't developing their careers versus the people who are developing.
Hours development, I take courses with work time, but
Okay.
I don't spend outside the work time to read something else.
Okay, but there might be some other crazy people who came from overseas that, they're not married and they work, 24-hour shifts, correct? I guarantee, especially in the IT field, they're the ones who get to keep their jobs. They can't lose them, right? And the people that are just casual, like lifestyle, oh, here's a really beautiful severance package. And then you go home and stuff like that. Finances, again, I don't know more details of that, but if you're not preparing, someone gets laid off or a company goes out of business or shifting, and then you're not prepared for that preparation. Child development, if you're not spending time with the child, that'll kill you inside, which will also make you hate your job. Okay? And then the 4 hours with husband, alhamdulillah, that's great. And if you notice as well, where is the time for her dreams? Right, this is all demand and distractions and delusions, things like that. But the actual fulfillment and dreams, like you'll see, like it's not there, and that's like a typical lifestyle. The weekend factor in. Believe me, that things that aren't. This is the principle that I do with discovery, and I tell people, and I repeat it again and again, and that is that perfection doesn't happen by accident. So most people's weekends are accidents. If you understand what I mean by accident. Meaning like they wake up on the weekend and then they're like, what should we do today? What's the program for today? They're like, I don't know. What do you want to do? Let's go back to sleep. Wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and let's go to the mall. Because there's nothing else to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if a person hasn't planned out, it's not going to happen by accident. They have to plan.